Well, my name is João Rosa. I'm a Portuguese person living in the Netherlands. I like to travel around the world. At my heart, I'm a software engineer, but I turned myself into a manager. So managing teams, companies, and also help other people on this path. And my experience with DDD starts with development. So the code bases and the companies that I joined weren't easy to change. We had lots of mismatch between how people communicate. And I found on the DDD community the patterns to adjust this mismatch. But then I continued my journey with the mismatch with the organization, and not only at the code base, but also the mismatch with the organizational design with strategic part. And that is where I'm focusing in the past 2 years more and more to help DDD progress on the strategic side, how we can organize the company, how can we organize our business functions, because I deeply believe happy people will make happy customers. Yes, indeed. So I use all of these tools to create a safe environment. And I use these patterns also to help the companies to move with their strategic decisions, because usually I see people, okay, let's do a strategic decision like now our services are not only on the Netherlands, we're going to have starting with the country next door with Belgium. Software is the same. Well, no, there are implications. And using DDD as a foundation can help us reasoning about what's going to change on our landscape, what can happen to our people, then what can happen to our software. And those conversations can help companies progress, but also give the tools and support to teams to see why they need to change their software or why some parts of the landscape needs to change. So we have all of this healthy conversation, and that ends up to sums to a healthy work environment. What fascinates me with DDD is actually the community around this. I'm very into the content and the pattern language that Eric Evans wrote, but I'm flabbergasted by the community. So the community remain honest. We weren't flooded by tools like other communities that were driven by tools. We keep, I don't want to use the word honest, but we keep faithful to initial purpose. And what I'm seeing, especially on last 2 editions of DDD Europe, at least on this part of the world where I am, I start seeing other communities blending in, the testing community, more business or systems thinking communities. And I find this fascinating. I find this as, the crossroad where everything crosses. The DDD community was able to raise all of that. I know that, people are looking for Simon Worley for his work, and he's far out of DDD, but DDD community is serving as this, this road where roads cross. And this is very interesting because I learn a lot. I learn how other people doing, and in the end, that can help the companies to produce better products and services. And these community around me, just, I'm very proud to be part of this and learn. Remote workshops, what we have been learning is also that it's possible to create this psychology safety. And that is what we are looking, and that's why I introduced myself that as a manager, I'm focusing on this, is to help people to feel safe. And we only can collaborate and we only can get to a solution that suits the problem if we feel safe, if we can speak up, if we can do mistakes, because a part of collaboration is, will this work? And we just display a model. Oh, it's wrong. We are totally wrong. And we are fine with that. And we abandon that model and go. So this morning I had the final session with a company here in Netherlands in a remote setting. And I sensed from the first session that they had a good culture. So it was easy to ask for people to do mistakes. And they did, and they reason about that, and we throw away design, and we keep building that. So in a remote setting, it's harder to spot the signals, because when we were doing these person to person, I could see how the group interact when they got coffee, how they form small tribes with each others. I cannot see this now, right? If we go and take a coffee, you're going to see me on my camera. But we can see by the jokes that they do. So they had a person that returned to his house. He was working from another place in the world. And he, in the morning, said, "Oh, my house is full of spiders." And at the end of the day, that person was walking and someone telling, "Hey, look out, don't splash a spider." And this type of honest joke, I spotted that, okay, this is a group with a nice culture, that they test the waters, and they can really produce something. We had also other experiences where the environments are not this flexible, and we spot these, just one person talking. We can even spot some facial expressions. I'm able to display things on my monitor to see the faces of people. I can spot that. We can even spot if people don't turn on the camera, right? You don't turn on the camera. Can be for personal reasons, right? Your kid just run inside of the room. That can happen. But if you pass 4 hours with your camera shut down, perhaps there is something there. I cannot address that directly, because I also don't put people on spotlight. But these are signals that we learn, because everyone is working from home across the world, and can help with our role of facilitators on these sessions. And this is the basics that we use and what we learn as well, because this was new for us, remote facilitation, to help companies to get better designs, because design in the end is the sum of these perspectives. And if there is no psychology safety, your design will be bad. So the one that occurs to my mind was the second time that was the first time that I facilitated a session with Kenny more than 2 years ago, an event storming session. We were together in this company. He brought me along, and we were doing event storming with a big group, with a company that operates on top of infrastructure of electricity. So they don't own their own infrastructure, but they sell these to customers. It's a model here in Netherlands. And we did all day, and we had people across the company. And in the end of the day, the engineer manager, the lady, just steps back, looks to the board, and says, "Well, I know where we did the mistake with our systems." Because in the beginning of the process and the end of the process, they have the same concept, a client, but in the beginning is client acquisition, people that ring doorbells and have campaigns, and the end of the process was finance, where we issuing an invoice. Now, although you call this a client, you could clearly see in a wall why you entangle your systems. Although it's a client, it means two different things. So this is the example that I always give, because also gives me good memories, because it was the second session that Kenny and we facilitate a session. It was very, very fun. But also that moment that person walks and gets the eureka moment, the haha moment, shows how DDD can be really, really powerful to help you to start your journey to disentangle your system and to have a more flexible landscape to achieve your goals. And this, I think, that goes with our human nature. So human writing, it's way newer than drawing pictures, right? We have all across the world, our ancestors, they draw in walls and rocks in caves. We weren't as comfortable as we are today. We didn't have this written language, but today we force ourselves to write documents of specifications with 200 or 300 pages. This goes against our nature as humans. I see that behavior and responsibilities are keys. This is nothing new, right? Rebecca wrote a book about objectry and responsibilities, predates DDD. But this is what we are looking for. What is your purpose? Listen to people. Listen to the code base. And if we start getting signals like, oh, this is just yet another exception, perhaps we are facing a different part of the reality. So focusing on this behavior will help us produce better models, producing better software. We don't try to put all the responsibilities in one model or one entity and then have problems to change it. So I will say that being tuned and train your brain and get used to these questions towards the behavior will help as proven practices with our community. I look to the Gang of Four patterns and then, oh, I can apply a singleton here and I can apply that. And yes, we can apply any of these patterns, but needs to have a meaning. And although the pattern language with DDD is more simple, but yet is way more powerful. And especially with Kenny, because Kenny started this movement and brought a bit of the BDD community towards DDD, mixing and bringing these different flavors and with the behavior in mind, code after that, I think that we can achieve better results. So definitely those technical patterns are important, but after the behavior. I think that we, as our coding part, right, we have the curse of naming. So the colleague that wrote, Alex, that wrote the book Domain-Driven Design in .NET, has a beautiful picture explaining why we fail as software developers to translate the world. In that picture, it's a room that is blinds and a chair, and we tend to call things factories and handlers and this type of things. And this is one of the aspects. We tend to think that we are unique as software developers and isolate ourselves on our silos. And as we said before, and also as Kenny mentioned before, collaboration, it's key. And the collaboration part is getting these perspectives. So if we listen to people, if we observe how people work, we can produce better software. And I'm going to give you an example. I was team lead in a company that has e-com here in Netherlands, and I was responsible for a team that handles the internal process of restocking. As part of joining the team, I asked people to spend 4 hours with the colleagues that do the restocking process, actually the people that uses the software, to see how they talk, to see the difficulties that they use to use the software, and then came to the team. I don't need them to explain the process so they can really understand them. In the moment that they start doing code, that's become easier because they saw people doing the job. And I think that this is critical to understand the behavior. And I think that as a community, so with the DDD community, we understood this about the behavior. We understood the language, as Kenny said before. And now if we embrace this and try to go and understand how people work, then we can come back and do better software. Of course, there are other things. That's why I invest my time with strategic part and the management part. How can I create a safer environment for people to do this in a natural way? I believe that as an industry, we need to walk a lot. We are far from that. But we are going there. We are aware, and at least us on this interview, we already discovered that these patterns work. We need to continue this good work as you guys are doing with DDD Taiwan. Keep evangelizing where we can go. So Kenny and I, we will give our presentation from event storming to coding. So actually it's our practice and what we believe that we should do. And this goes from modeling with event storming and another modeling techniques And then how do we translate this to code? Because we saw two camps, people that do good modeling, but then was a continuation. So we decided, okay, perhaps we just can show how we do it in code. So our aim with this presentation is doing a bit of a role playing with event storming to show, okay, this is how it goes, very fast, 30 seconds, usually takes several days. And then how we came up with our models, continue this rolling, and then do live coding. How can we do this? Using outside in TDD, using BDD, how can we combine these techniques and have a prototype that works and matches what we just designed? And with this, we show techniques that are very cheap to get the perception how our prototype and our code can change, to have a quick validation about our assumptions or about the way that we want to build software. Yeah, it's a very nice point. Thanks. What we want to show people is that there are other ways of doing things, so that you can invest in modeling. I'm saying that takes a few days because we start with a big picture. So we start from top level and goes until software design. But we want people to understand that with these techniques, and they invest time upfront, because we also believe that you need to have enough upfront design. You don't need to do like in the 80s, IBM, that is 2 years designing a system. But also we don't go to the other extreme. Oh, the code just sells everything and just code something. That is not enough. So we want to show people that are a few techniques that don't have a strong protocol, like UML as a strong protocol to describe software. You can describe behavior with stickies. You can put a few stickies together that model your entities and value objects, and then you can code it. But you can get a better shared mental model within your team, and you can take this home, because it's pretty inexpensive to write on a sticky. It's pretty expensive to have software running in production that doesn't have the intended behavior. I'm looking forward to meet more people in a different context with a different experience than I have. So I'm here in my bubble in the Netherlands. I'm an expat. I love to meet people, and I expect to learn what the community is doing, how you are doing, how you are solving problems, and take this with me, because I deeply believe that I can learn a lot, and I'm thrilled and be honored to be part of the conference. And this is what I'm looking forward. But I'm looking forward to learn how the community is developing, because context matters, and what can I learn from you in that regard, and bring that with me. DDD Taiwan conference, Yo.
You're great.
Yeah.
Great.